about probably physical enrollment for a vast majority, no?
Oo nga, no?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So you wonder whether they're prepared.
Oh, yeah.
No? Schools
Yun
are
na.
prepared. Kasi
Very good point.
Blended, di ba? Blended.
yeah, and no, look at the figures. 900,000 teachers and staff, 28 million learners just from K to 12. Paano mo makokontrol yun? Sabihin na natin conservatively that 40% of those will have no online access, meaning who cannot enroll online. Biro mo yun? Anong gagawin mo doon? Diba?
Oo. Makikita natin, in a way, you're right, Lucy, yung enrollment process pa lang is already going to be proof or a demonstration of how viable or not viable an opening of school is going to be.
Yes.
Doon nga makikita, di ba? Paano nga ba mag-enroll na may physical distancing?
Yeah.
Di ba?
Unless mag-drop yung enrollment for this year.
Yes, which they expect.
That's a big possibility,
Yeah, they expect it.
Yeah.
How much, we don't know. But sabi ni Yusek Malaluan, reasonable drop. They're expecting a reasonable drop. Kasi syempre,
I wonder by how
diba,
much.
hindi lang yun. Ang daming magiging jobless. Hindi, I don't know. I imagine that many will not have the tuition needed to enroll their kids, diba?
Yeah.
Ayun sa dami ng mga businesses that will close and workers who will be terminated, you expect enrollment to really go down.
And they may expect their kids to help out while they're looking for a job.
Exactly.
Or trying to make ends meet.
Isa pa yun. Yeah.
Sa Senate, merong proposal na gawing staggered yung payment ng tuition, di ba? Pero hindi naman nakapasa pa eh. Wala pa namang, wala nang time in the first place na magpasa ng batas eh.
Yeah, and then in the meantime, we recall kahapon yung conversation natin kay Senator Win Gatchalian. They're trying to put on a brave front, acknowledging na mahirap to, but at the same time saying okay lang, hindi naman okay lang, but they're saying walang internet lahat ng tao, but somehow they're trying to think that maybe TV, maybe even radio can compensate for this and bridge the gap.
Yeah. But even that will be very, very challenging, no? Using broadcast. Kasi tama ka, Ede. There's no interactivity there, no?
Yeah, you just watch it. It's supposed to supplement lang eh. It's not supposed to take the place.
Oo. Tapos, I mean, I'm sorry, but I imagine that the TV screens will be really small, no? And then I imagine that there will be siguro magkakapatid. Paano yon? Kunyari, tatlong anak mo.
Grade.
Grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Paanong channel yon? Anong channel, di ba? Anong unahin mo?
HBO na lang papanood nila.
Hindi ko ma-imagine yung situation even with TV or radio, no? So one will be listening on radio, another will be listening on TV or watching. Paano yung mga iba, di ba?
Ito nga, speaking of technology, proof of concept lang sa sinasabi ko. Habang nagsasalita ako, naputulan ako. May internet na nga.
Kaya
Baka lang wala kang load.
Dapat is a real question. Ito, totoong question. I honestly don't have an answer for it. None of us do. But kahapon, sabi ni Senator Gatchalian, I don't see any harm. And, something is better than nothing. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to this episode because I have a nagging feeling na hindi. There's something we're missing here when we think na hindi, okay lang. Yung iba pwede mag-TV, iba pwede mag-radyo. I have a nagging feeling that there's an aspect here that can actually do damage if we convince ourselves that that's actually adding value. When I'm really, really very skeptical as to whether or not, do we really think may value yun?
Yeah.
Maraming ang mapag-iwanan yan, Kasi in the first place, marami pa daw tayong mga lugar na walang kuryente. Eh di lang TV, walang connectivity, absolutely nothing.
At saka konting bagyo lang, 'di ba? Wala nang kuryente.
Wala na lahat.
Paano na? paano pag natapat yon sa finals? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Parang, paano ka mag-aaral? Paano ka magsasubmit ng test?
Anyway.
Oo.
Pasok na tayo sa yung sa guest natin. Para
I think we should bring him already. Joining us today is Juan Miguel Luz.
Wait, wala pa.
Hindi pa ready.
Okay, sige.
Well, that's an interesting point that you brought up. Yung infrastructure, hindi lang yung communication infrastructure, pati yung power infrastructure is not exactly ready in all places. Some of the places that I've gone to distribute, for example, distribute laptops, wala silang kuryente na stable. They will have electricity for 2 hours in a day, and usually sa gabi pa. And then the rest of the day, wala.
And then beyond the infrastructure, let's also admit that it's not just about the technology. It's not even just about giving everybody internet access. Even teachers are saying, "Teka muna, I don't actually know how to teach online. We don't actually have a syllabus for teaching online." And let's remember, yung cohort rate ng mga people who drop off, that includes many of our parents of children in public schools. Pati sila. It's not as if you have people at home who can help the children to understand the curriculums and the teaching. So it's not even just about technology, di ba? Well, you still need the human resource at home.
And narinig ko kanina si PCO Martin Andanar, Secretary Andanar. Gagamitin daw yung network ng IBC 13. So, ewan ko, hindi ko kabisado yun.
Very limited ang reach nun. Very limited ang reach nun.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, at the end of the day, that's one bandwidth. I don't know if the technology can allow it to split up into seminar, but at the end of the day, you have 24 hours worth of programming, di ba? We all know that in the network. Di ba? At the end of the day, you only have one piece of content that you can broadcast linearly. And what? You're going to serve up multiple grades. How do you split up the use of that bandwidth for multiple grades? Not to mention multiple regions, multiple provinces, multiple needs, and so on.
And it's not just a matter of spouting data. You have to communicate effectively. I mean, to us, Sesame Street seems like it's so easy to do, but actually there's science behind Sesame Street. You have characters, you have Muppets that are tailor fit for certain ages talaga. Ernie and Bert are supposed to be for this age, and so on down the line. And they talk for the benefit of those ages. It's scientific. Hindi siya yung basta let's have fun.
Sige, subukan natin pasok na yung guest natin. Baka pwede na.
Yan. Pwede na.
natin, nakikita na yung limitation ng technology.
Joining us tonight. Let's bring him in. Joining us tonight is Juan Miguel Luz, a former Undersecretary of the Department of Education and now an Associate Dean for Development Management of the Asian Institute of Management. Sir, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Chiefs.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sir, you've been quoted as saying that the COVID-19 crisis should not be compounded by a learning crisis, and that of course learning is not the same as schooling. I think we all agree. We all agree with these concepts. But I think the question as well for most people is, while we agree with that, are we right now ready for an August 24 opening? Is the infrastructure in place? Are the teachers ready? And so on down the line.
And a June 1 enrollment.
And that too.
A few days away.
Yeah. No, we're definitely. I'll start by saying that we're not quite ready, but we are working to get ready. Okay, that's the first. The second is if you do postpone, and we've already postponed to August 24. The question then asked is those who want to postpone it further, including number of, at least one congressman who's on record saying, postpone it for the year. I mean, that's pretty drastic to stop everything. So we're trying to figure out, DepEd's trying to figure it out, private schools are trying to figure it out. How do we make this happen? How do we make the school year happen? And how do we make it such that we don't need to be, if we can't do face-to-face, can we do other modes of,
Modalities, yeah.
of meeting up? And that's what everybody is trying to do. We're not giving up on the school year just yet, because we think, those of us in the education sector, giving up on the school year and stopping it altogether, I think is going to be pretty drastic.
But considering, sir, that June 1, actually the whole month of June will be enrollment period, isn't it forcing parents to really now go or troop to the schools to enroll their kids? Meaning they will have to commit to paying tuition on the assumption that school will really start by August 24, when actually nothing yet is clear as to whether it will indeed begin on August 24. So I guess the scheduling will be the first thing that needs to be clarified. Are we really ready to get them to enroll already this June?
Okay. Yung enrollment na may tuition, you're really talking of private schools.
Yes, sir.
I'm involved with a number of private schools, and one of the things that we're saying is that enrollment can happen, but not necessarily the payment of fees or the payment of tuition. That can be postponed. In fact, many of the private schools are already assuming that there will be at least 1 quarter without revenue.
Oh, okay.
To be postponed.
Okay.
Because you still need enrollment, because you do have to know what your numbers are going to be like. Otherwise, how do you prepare for your materials? How do you prepare for whatever if you don't know how many kids are actually coming to school? There are those who are doing some estimates on how much less enrollment there will be for the private schools, for example. And those numbers are...
Have you arrived at some numbers? How much decrease do you anticipate?
Yes, sir. Projections po.
No. Right now, there are no firm projections. All I can tell you is that some of the schools that I've been involved with are already putting forth 2 scenarios. That one scenario is about 30% decrease in enrollment. Second scenario is up to about 50% decrease.
Wow.
The most extreme scenario, of course, is that the school year is postponed until 2021. That's an extreme scenario.
Yeah, Mr. Luz, if you don't mind, I'll just try to ask a stupid question, but try to get a fundamental principle here, if you don't mind. Why is that too extreme? I mean, postponing school altogether, come back in 2021. You said obviously that's very radical. It's very extreme. Why is it extreme? Why is that unfathomable?
Well, one is that so the kids are okay. For those of us who are in education, a postponement in learning, not being, unless you find ways to keep the kids engaged in learning, then in effect it's sayang. It's a year, and remember, children are in a growth process, in a growth mode, and if you stop the schooling or you stop the education, there's going to be, well, it's not that they forget things, but you have no opportunity for them to learn more things. Yeah, that's the first. But the other problem is, when children are going to stay home because they're not going to be going to school, that means a lot of parents are going to, those who are working are going to have to find ways to watch the kids at home as well. And if they're going to have to do that and they're not going to be able to work, that's also going to compound the problem.
I
So
see.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay, no, that's
people are now
reasonable.
talking about a blended form of teaching, learning. How feasible is that? I know it's never been done before. Under these circumstances, people are saying something is better than nothing, and we should really explore
Mm.
all these blended learning modes. How
okay,
feasible is it?
actually, blended learning is not new. Uh, it's being done in other countries. We're behind the curve on this one. Uh, for the Philippines, we're not in a we really very few schools have actually gone into blended learning. What blended is basically a mix between face-to-face classroom uh,
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
experience and what we call distance learning or uh, uh, okay, distance learning where the materials are provided and you do the work or the kids do the work
Yes.
offline or in some other, whether it is what do you call this, internet based or based on packets.
Yes.
By the way, DepEd is looking at packet based because many of the schools don't have connectivity or the kids don't have connectivity at home
Mm.
or the bandwidth is not sufficient.
Mm.
Oh.
So, so
Yeah. Okay, so on when you're talking about packet based, no, somebody will have to supervise them, right? Because
yes,
I assume that that means that the education materials will be given or sent or picked up by the parents for them, for the students to work on. Who will
yes.
be supervising them if they're offline?
Okay. Here's what's being experimented this summer in together with DepEd NCR in Manila, in Tondo, in fact. Um,
Uh-huh.
there's a group that I'm involved with. It's a learning center, and they have been doing a tutorial program with DepEd kids for a number of years now. There was supposed to be a summer program, which has been had to be stopped or couldn't take off because of the quarantine. And so what they did was uh, the packets, the learning materials were reproduced into packets, and they were distributed um, through, in this case, a network of nanais. Um,
Mm.
Oh,
and
okay.
what happened was this is the experiment this summer, which DepEd NCR is looking at. Um,
Okay.
packets go out; they are distributed to the community center, which is where the learning center, which is basically a community center. Um, the nanais come and they pick up the packets. Um,
Mm.
Okay.
goes
Yeah.
home. They have it for a week, and then it's when they come to pick up the next set of packets at the end of the following week. They bring the work that the kids do. That goes back. Um, so it goes back and forth that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a career
Mm.
system. Okay.
Yes.
Now
Mm.
to support that, um, what the learning center has done is they've also put up a Facebook Messenger. Um, using
Oh.
Facebook Messenger, they can
Oh.
communicate with the nanais. And the
So may
nanais,
Oo.
that
So may
way,
online pa rin siya. Meron pa rin siyang
yes,
digital element.
yes, in that case, or what happens is the tutors uh, will be at the learning center so that the nanais, if they can't connect, can meet up with them in the center and bring
Oh.
Sir,
their
how many? What's the ratio here? How many tutors are in the learning center serving how many students in that one particular community, for example?
okay. In the Tondo Center, what I recall is that uh, there are four who are on the staff of the learning center, and then there are a number of volunteers uh, I don't know how many volunteers there are, and there are at this point in the summer program, roughly about 200 kids who
Okay.
are coming in and out. So
Okay.
it's a pilot. That's why the learning center is trying to see how they can build the efficiencies, and together with DepEd NCR, they are starting at the end of, in fact, in the beginning of June. There's 1,000 teachers who are going to start a training program on that particular arrangement to see how we can scale it.
Oh,
Yes.
Pero
okay.
sir, is that
That's really
tutoring
where
or is it?
that's really where the question is going, di ba? Parang if we're gonna scale it on a national level, just on
Yeah,
that
to
other component
replicate.
that you mentioned, how many volunteers are we
Okay.
going to have to call in to scale this on a national level?
Okay, let me, one of the things that we've always said, and this is not only for the COVID period, it's always been this way with DepEd. I remember uh, I was around when we had SARS. Uh,
Mm, yeah.
so, uh, so we were, when we were looking at that, one of the things that uh, we agreed on was, you recall at that time we also had to postpone the start of the school year, but we only
Okay.
postponed it by 3 weeks because the
Yeah.
SARS turned out the cases rose fast, but it also dissipated quite quickly. Okay,
Mm,
now I think what we don't want is we don't want a one size fits all kind of solution.
Hmm.
If we look at the COVID situation, definitely COVID is quite rampant in Mega Manila,
Metro
not
Manila.
just NCR.
Yes.
I don't think we have to lock down. I'm not. I wasn't one who agreed that we should lock down the whole country
Okay.
for cases in Metro Manila and in cases in Cebu
Hmm.
and
In
cases
in short,
major.
you see this happening only mostly within
Right.
Mega Manila.
That's right.
It doesn't mean replicating the whole thing across the archipelago, right?
Right. So
Okay. Well,
in
yeah.
cases where you don't have COVID, and we get a good sense. I mean, I'll let the medical experts determine this. I don't think we need to shut down the schools necessarily. I think
Uh,
we have to take precautions, but we don't have to shut down the schools. It's really only in Mega Manila and in the places where you've had, the large number of cases that we really need to worry
yeah.
about what we do.
Well,
Okay, so
yeah.
that's really the way I think we should look at this problem. So,
All right.
do we need to have volunteers doing all of this all over the country? No, it all
We
depends
use
on whether or not
teachers.
the schools are going to be we're going
Yeah.
to be able to operate the schools or not.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, sir, thank you so much for giving us at least a more concrete picture of how other modalities can work outside of
Yes,
online learning. Salamat po. Sir,
thank you.
salamat for your contributions and inputs to this discussion. We'll see you again, I'm sure, especially as enrollment and actual school year begins. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Salamat po.
All
Stay
right.
safe.
Okay, in the meantime, the Chiefs will be back. Please don't go away.
Welcome back to this special edition of the Chiefs. We'd now like to welcome from education, we now move to public health, and we'd like to welcome our next guest, Dr. Rustico Jimenez. He's the president of the Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines. Welcome po, Doctor. Good evening po.
Good evening po.
Welcome to the Chiefs. Yes.
Good evening po sa inyong lahat.
Good evening. We're with Lingao of TV5 and Luchi Cruz-Valdes of TV5 and One News Roby Alampay.
Good evening po sa inyong lahat.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us po.
Yes. You have nearly 750 members in your group, Doctor. Kukumustahin lang po namin. Mukhang nag-i-improve na yung quarantine facilities, yung isolation, our capability for testing has improved. Kumusta naman po yung lagay ng mga hospitals natin? Kasi there was a recent report also that some hospitals are still, private hospitals are still being overwhelmed. At nag-aalala daw sila na baka mapilitan silang magsara or to suspend operations. What's the situation now among your members?
Among our members po is about 50% po ay about to close.
Oh my
Kasi po
goodness.
marami pong factors.
Yeah.
Number one, kukunti po yung pumupunta na pasyente going to the non-COVID facilities po. Natatakot po eh. Then of course, coupled with that, yung pong PhilHealth ay too much delay po sa payment. Yung sinasabi po nilang na advance payment po sa amin, we have the census now of our members, only about 46% po yung mga nakatanggap. Members in Mindanao, like in Lanao, hindi po sila nakakatanggap. Iloilo po, hindi po nakakatanggap. Some members in Bulacan, hindi rin po. Sa Batangas po, halos na, kalahati po ata yung magsasara po doon kasi po, tinamaan ng volcano. Hindi pa ho nakakabawi. Ito na naman po yung COVID.
Pero Doc, can you qualify yung sinasabi niyong they're about to close? Kasi nakakatakot pakinggan yung about to close eh. Can you qualify that? Exactly what do you mean by that? And if you're talking about anything in the immediate future, gaano kahaba yung PC, for example?
Kasi po ang naapektuhan po dito yung mga maliliit na ospital. Sakali po may tinamaang isang frontliner na doktor sa emergency room. So, i-quarantine mo na po yan on 14 days. Kung serious pa po yung kaso, siyempre, i-confine mo po yun. And then, like in our hospital, a 50-bed hospital here in Parañaque, 2 doktor na po ang tinamaan. 2 medtech na po ang tinamaan. 4 na nurse po ang tinamaan. Then, 2 rad techs are now positive. Ang naka-confine po ngayon sa amin ng mga tao namin ay 2. So, how can you expect na full-time yung mga hospital to serve all the patients, both COVID and non-COVID? Kaya po yun ang pinakakiusap namin before, na yung kukunti pa yung kaso natin, huwag lahat sa government hospitals dalhin yung PPEs because during that time, bumibili po kami sa abroad at dumarating po after 1 month at mahal pa. Kaya po, baka karinig kayo, bakit sinisingil ng hospital yung mga pasyente of the PPEs. Kasi po, nabili namin ng mahal during that time. Ngayon lang po, medyo dumadami na. Kaya po, medyo satisfied na kami. And we want to thank those donors, like the Office of the Vice President, the other donors, and of course, yun din pong mga malalapit sa amin, nagbibigay po ng pagkain, and then yung, sometime there was the, itong libreng sakay ng ating transportation ng yung mga bus, pero hindi po nadaanan lahat. So, kami rin po, mga hospital din po nagpo-provide ng transpo ng aming mga tao, and then of course, we have to give directive ng labor, magbibigay po kami ng hazardous pay. So, kung maliit po yung PC mo, hindi mo na po yun mapapaduktong-duktong at chances are, hindi ka na lang mag-admit. Most probably, ang bubuksan mo lang po yung emergency room. Kasi kung bubuksan mo naman ng walang doktor, chances are mamamatay lang yung pasyente doon sa emergency room.
Doc, okay, so we're scheduled at least kung matuloy yung recommendation ng Metro Manila Council baka raw mag-GCQ na sa June 1. We want to hear from you, from the ground, no, kung talaga bang nabawasan na ang dami ng mga infections, nabawasan na ba yung mga admissions ng COVID sa mga hospitals?
Nabawasan po in a sense na marami na pong natetest ngayon. Pero hindi pa rin po yung ideal. Kaya po nasa-segregate na yung pasyente na positive. So, naituturo na po namin doon sa mga government facilities na piniprovide ng government. Hindi na po nagsasama-sama lahat sa private hospitals. Pero, by nature po, ang ating mga pasyente, gusto nila sa private hospitals. Kaya po, if you will analyze the census, 60 to 70% po ay na-admit sa private hospitals. So, kaya nung nag-meeting po kami ng DOH 2 days ago, lumalabas napakaraming bed na available. Pero in actual practice, hindi po ganun. Kasi po, yun nga po yung mga reasons na sinabi ko sa inyo. And then of course, minsan na-ostracize po yung mga frontliners natin. Pag uwi, ayaw pa uwiin sa kanilang mga boarding house, sa bahay. Merong paong nabarel doon sa Quezon na driver ng ambulansya kasi naghahatid lang siya ng mga nag-duty. So, yun po ang mga factors. And then, of course, marami din pong pasyente ang hindi nagsasabi po ng tama. Nililihim po nila. For example now, yun nga po, nabanggit nyo, pwede tayong bumalik na sa ordinary quarantine. Ang nire-request po nila ngayon, clearance para makabalik sila sa trabaho. So, paano natin gagawin? Siyempre, kung yun naman ipipilit natin yung napakamahal, baka hindi po mabayadan ng mga trabaho natin. Kung gagawin naman natin yung mura, baka naman magkaroon tayo ng false negative, false positive. So, kaya po, nabanggit ni Joko na kaibigan natin na bakit daw kami walang ginagawa. But for his information, 32 doktor ang namatay. So, we are doing something about it. And hindi naman po kami nagkulang na nasabi namin pagkukulang na para maproteksyonan ang ating mga frontliners.
Doc, sundutin ko lang yung tanong kanina ni Ed that when you say for example that 50% of the private hospitals of your members could face closure, ongoing process po ba yon or are you saying meron tayong merong time window na hahantong yan sa ganyan?
Kasi po, pag dumami po talaga na nakita natin na mas marami pa, kasi hindi naman po tayo sigurado at this time na yung binibigay sa ating data are complete. Because merong mga studies na kulang ng 6,000, 5,000 yung data na binibigay sa atin. So kung lumabas yun, we do not want yung prediction sa atin before na magkakaroon tayo ng 35,000 na cases na positive. Kasi hindi na po natin talaga makakaya po yun.
So, you have a group, no? You have an organized group. Nakausap niyo na po kamo ang DOH. May hinihingi po tulong sa gobyerno to prevent, you're talking about 300 hospitals shutting down or suspending operations for a protracted period. May hiningi po ba sa DOH na specific measures to prevent this from happening?
Sinabi ko na nga po sa meeting po namin na pabilisin po yung bayad ng PhilHealth, number 1. Number 2 po, yung pinangako nila ng advance payment, pabilisin din po. Kasi po kung 46% lang yung nakatanggap, how about the hospitals in the provinces na maliliit? Yung po ang posibleng magsara sila po nagpo-provide tumawag sa aming mga probinsya. Nalaman po ni Luchi yan during yung isa na lecture sa speaker nila. Sabi po namin ng hospitals. So, alam ni parating Luchi yung problema namin. Nung nagsalita Luchi sa amin, mga 3 years ago na yun, up to now, hindi pa rin nag-improve In fact, we have a board meeting earlier before our broadcast. Dinidiscuss namin kung anong possibility na pwede namin because we are now going into bulk purchase para makamura po doon sa mga bibilihin namin at para matulungan po yung iba, and then definitely wala po tayong doon po kami kumikita ng konti ng budget sa organization. So, kung wala po tayong program ito, ano lang, by internet and everything, wala po kami makukolektang ano. So, siguro eventually, we'll also do our activities.
Pero
Pero,
Doc,
sir,
kung pala sa inyo, babalikan ko yung tanong kanina. Babalikan ko lang yung tanong kanina, Doc, kasi medyo hindi nyo nasasagot eh.
Yeah.
Yung sinabi niyo na kalahati sa mga miyembro nyo maaaring magsara, how urgent is that? Ano hong timetable nakikita nyo? By when maaaring magsara ang kalahati kung hindi, for example, nare-reimburse o nadadagdagan yung percentage na re-reimburse ng PhilHealth? Something concrete po. When you talk about possibly kalahati magsara, by when po at ano mga factors involved?
Yun nga po, as I told you, we met earlier by the board to decide on what to do para makasave po ng mga hospital.
Opo.
So, kung mapapabilis po yung payment ng PhilHealth, so mapapaikot pa namin yung pera, then of course, kung madadagdagan po yung approval ng mga magte-test sa probinsya, kasi wala pong na-approve pa ng private hospital sa probinsya ng marami. Karamihan government. So, kung magagawa po namin yon, siyempre, kikita rin po ng konti yung ospital, yun ang mga pagdadagdag po doon sa posibleng kakulangan ng budget namin.
Doc, iba'y ko na ganito na lang yun. I'll rephrase the question. May nagsara na po ba?
Marami na po nagsara na emergency room lang po yung open.
Okay. Doon lang po sa aspeto ng PhilHealth na isinanggunin nyo ngayon sa Department of Health, and as you said, you had a recent meeting. Ano po ang isinagot sa inyo tungkol doon sa PhilHealth?
Gagawan daw po nila ng paraan na mabayadan po kami immediately para po mapaikot pa namin yung puhunan ng ating mga maliliit na ospital.
Nasaan daw po?
Gaano kahaba pa ang PC ninyo? Like, sabihin na lang natin, paano kung bayaran kayo sa Agosto pa? Gaano karaming ospital ang hindi na makakatagal by then?
Yun nga po, yung sinabi ko, baka kalahati po magsara na.
So, dapat talaga by June, bayaran na kayo or July, ganon?
Opo, yung pinangako nila na 38 billion, i-release na po lahat sa mga ospital na nangangailangan at this time. Kasi po,
maliban po sa reassurance sa inyo na, sige, ilalabas na natin, what was the explanation, as you could appreciate it, on where is the bottleneck and where is the inefficiency in getting that money to you?
Hindi po nasagot ng DOH kasi yung nag-appear naman po sa meeting, hindi niya alam yung dahil hindi naman po siya related sa PhilHealth. Nagulat na po siya nung sinabi ko na ganun kalaki na po yung utang sa amin at hindi kami nababayadan.
Doc, nabanggit nyo na gusto nyo ring maging yung ibang hospital gawing testing centers for COVID. Tapos gusto nyo ng tulong ba to make bulk purchases para makabawas ng gastos nyo? Will that help? Ano yung sinabi ng DOH nung sinabi nyo yung mga bagay na yon? Payag ba sila?
Yun po. Yung pa nga, bibilisan na po daw yung approval ng mga yung mga aming mga laboratory sa probinsya para po makatulong yun sa testing. Kasi po kung hindi magagawa lahat yun, earlier yung unang-una po, dito lang pa kami nagpapadala sa RITM Yes. Mga 2 o 3 hospital lang po yan Ngayon, nung dumami na yung kaso, noon lang po nadagdagan. Remember yung nagagalit na po si Mayor sa Marikina, may isang buwan na yung available yung yung lab niya pero hindi pa nabigyan ng Of course, we understand kasi live virus po yung hawak ng laboratory. Pero po, marami po sa ospital ay meron pong yung tinatawag naming TB dots. Yes. Kung hindi po ako nagkakamali, yung mga gamit po doon, pwede rin gamitin sa COVID. Kung hindi po ako nagkakamali, that's not my specialty.
Ito yung pag-testing ng tuberculosis.
Opo. So kung may convert po yon at mas marami pong hospital ang makakagawa noon. And then, hindi na tayo mag-iisip na mawawalan tayo ng testing. Yung testing natin, magtatagal. Look at what is happening sa OFW. Napakatagal yung resulta dumating. So, ano nangyayari sa atin? So, nahihirapan tayo. And then, eventually, baka magkakahawa-hawa ulit yan dahil pag-uwi, may kasama na naman siyang driver na hindi natin alam kung negative or positive kasi po marami naman yung asymptomatic.
Right. Yeah. Doc, nabanggit nyo kanina na isa pa sa mga dahilan kung bakit mabagal ang pasok ng kita ay dahil natatakot ang mga tao na magpunta sa ospital. Pero dahil din yon siguro malamang sa ECQ tsaka sa MECQ. Pero kung matuloy yung GCQ, hindi ko kaya dadami na rin ang mga magkukonsulta o di kaya magpapa-admit. Hindi ko kaya encouraging yon sa inyo.
Pwede pong mangyari po yun. Kaya lang po, marami po rin consultant ng clinic. Kasi po, nag-iingat din sila dahil kung magkasakit sila, baka pamatay sila. Sino naman ang, usually kami po mga doktor, kami po ang breadwinner din sa aming pamilya. So pag nagkasakit ka at namatay ka, you cannot take that for granted also. So, ang ginawa po namin sa hospital namin, nag-separate na po kami nung para sa non-COVID lang po at COVID. Ngayon po kami, opportunity for us, meron po kami bagong building. So, ang pinag-usapan po namin sa aming hospital dito sa Parañaque, yung old building, po-concentrate na namin sa COVID. Para yung bago, gagawin namin talaga primarily lang sa non-COVID para tumaas yung kita namin.
Okay.
Gumawa yung paraan na separate yung dadaanan ng ating non-COVID at COVID. Ang mga tatanong niyo po yan, yung mga pediatricians, halos wala pong pumupunta sa mga pediatricians. Yun po ang kailangan natin, yung mga bakuna. And then, pag hindi pa bakuna, magkaroon pa rin tayong epidemic, measles, and para po pagdating ng
Dok, nawawala po kayo.
Medyo nawala.
Okay.
Medyo nawawala si Doc, but he's getting into a point na medyo nakakabahala rin talaga, no? I mean, he was mentioning especially for pediatrics. Bumababa ang mga visitation.
Right.
We understand na ang mga tao ay natatakot din, but he's also saying karamihan ng kailangan ng consultation is para bakunahan yung mga bata and so on. So down the line, we might be facing another big problem there. Kung if it lapses for what? Another 6 months, another year that people don't want to go to their doctors, malaki nga yan na mga hindi kailangan bakunahan.
Actually, hindi lang mga bata, no? It's a vicious cycle. Halimbawa, there was a teacher who died kasi may cancer siya and he needed to continue with the chemotherapy. But because of the COVID, they had to hold it, syempre. The result of which was he died.
Nakabalik na, Doc. Doc, can you hear us?
Yes,
Naririnig mo. Okay na po.
Narinig ko po kayo. Okay.
Okay. You were talking about
yun.
yung problema sa vaccination na naantala din itong COVID. Maybe you can tell us more about it kasi medyo lumabo kanina explanation niya. Medyo nasuspindi yata yung vaccination program na naman. Can you tell us more about yung disruption?
Kasi po ngayon natatakot po yung mga magulang na dalahin yung mga bata sa hospital. Kasi natatakot din sila kung dadalhin nila makahawa sa COVID patients. Especially po kung nabalik sa hospital, maraming COVID dyan na positive. Hindi na po sila tayo postpone nila. May mga schedule po yan . So kung hindi po magawa yung vaccination na yun po ang sinasabi ko, pwede tayo magkaroon ng epidemic for measles, diarrhea,
Doc, gusto ko lang tinangin yung one technical aspect here, no? Kasi 3 buwan na tayo na under COVID, under ECQ, MECQ, and so on. We're probably looking at another 3 months, probably another 6 months. Some are saying another year, hindi pa rin normal ang buhay nating lahat. What is the critical time window for people to na kumustahin man lang yung bakuna ng mga anak nila? Is there a particular window of time na very crucial for people to get their vaccination programs on track?
Ngayon na po, itong linggo na to, kasi nag-uulan na po tayo . Chances na magkakaroon ng dengue, possible kung may baha, left to this. Then of course, yung mga bata, hindi ko pwede postpone yun . Diarrhea, pertussis, measles, and chickenpox.
Right.
So,
Yes.
magkakaroon po tayo ng komplikasyon doon, and one killer pa rin sa atin dito is pneumonia pag nagkaroon ng komplikasyon sa mga diseases na minention natin na virus.
Doctor, tanong ko lang, because your group sent a letter, no? Sabi nyo, gusto nyo papalitan si Secretary Duque as a Secretary of Health. Sabi nyo, the DOH needs a fresh mind and fresh blood to lead the response against COVID. Maybe you can expound on this, saka yung pagdepensa sa kanya ni Presidente Duterte. Ano po yung masasabi nyo ron ngayon?
Ang appointing power naman po ay ang Presidente. Sa amin po, because ang feeling namin, medyo exhausted na si Secretary Duque. We are best friends. Pero po, pag ganitong epidemic o pandemic, ano po siguro available ng mga batang doktor na still active na pwedeng magbigay ng fresh idea to solve our problem of this pandemic COVID. Ito sa amin naman, ulit natin yung capability ni Secretary Duque. Napakatagal na po yung 3 months. Baka po kami pa yung ayaw natin mangyari na 35,000. Baka po mas maraming mamatay na Pilipino kung masyado tayong mabagal at yung pangako, yung hindi natin magawa yung simpleng pagpapauwi pa lang sa OFW. Resulta, dapat within 3 or 4 days, tapos na po yan eh. Kung talagang totoo yung ano. So, hindi po pwedeng sasabihin natin na walang record, hindi mapunta doon sa ating ano. Meron naman yung internet. So, nandun na po tayo sa bagong sistema. So, kailangan po siguro fresh ideas at proactive. Kasi po, remember during our interview December or early January, kampante siya na 3 lang yung kaso. Nung nasabi ko, pag inabutan tayo ng pandemic, we will not be prepared. So, dapat during that time, prepare na tayo ng mga PPE na yan, ating testing, ano man ang gagamitin natin, whether it's the mabilisulta at hindi naman masyadong accurate or itong PCR na talagang mahal. So, dapat na-prepare na po natin yan, and it's only now na nabay tayo kung saan natin i-quarantine ang ating mga possible na question mark na pasyente. Dapat during that time, because alam na natin yung experience sa China, sa Wuhan, so dapat during that time, nag-prepare na tayo because napakarami natin Chinese na visitors at ating mga visitors.
Okay, but Doc, linawin ko lang, no? Because on the one hand, as you know, President Duterte has already spoken on that particular question, and he has said, he still has my trust. He doesn't want to change courses midstream. Meantime, the Philippine Hospital Association has said that they are satisfied, they are backing. Just with regards po dun sa letter nyo, are you still pursuing that, or is that no longer an issue now that the President has and the Hospital Association has also spoken?
We still insist that he should be replaced.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Very categorical, huh?
Okay. Dr. Rustico Jimenez, President of the Private Hospitals Association. Sir, Doctor, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Salamat po, Doc.
Maraming salamat po.
Yes.
I always watch your programs.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you po.
Thank you pa.
And that will be all for this edition of the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm at Lingao News.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Luchi Cruz-Valdes of News 5.
I'm Roby Alampay, and we are One News.